How do you do? The Box Office Pulp Board feels it would be a little unkind to present this podcast without just a word of friendly warning. We're about to unfold a cinematic commentary track, made by a group of men who sought to create a podcast after their own ravings, without reckoning upon God. It is one of the strangest tales ever told. It deals with three great mysteries of the internet: analysis, observation, and deconstruction. I think it will thrill you. It may shock you. It might even horrify you. So if any of you feel you'd not care to subject your nerves to such a strain, now's your chance to... well, we've warned you. Now, to pause and refresh. For your convenience, we have an attractive refreshment stand in the lobby, with buttered popcorn, golden good and hot from the popper, your favorite candies, wholesome and rich, so delicious Dr. Pepper, so bright and brazen, with a tang and tingle unmatched by any other beverage. Dr. Pepper at our beverage stand right now, and then return to fully appreciate this bulk and a tragedy.
Like rates, do you have any idea what I'm talking about? That's okay, I'll do this the easy way. Ghosts. Arthur, I used to hunt ghosts with your Uncle Cyrus.
Goats?
Ghosts! Ghosts, goddammit, listen to me!
The following movie is rated R.
I came out the pussy talking about 13 Ghosts.
Never say that again.
Mike, I hope you recorded that, because I want that
did.
to be...
I just turned around. The first thing on this recording is Jamie saying I came out of the pussy talking about 13 Ghosts. So that's start.
I don't even need to introduce the show. Fuck it. We're live.
I'm so happy. Most of my best material is before we record.
I don't know why I'm starting the show.
I don't know why you use ClickR at this point. Just go into it.
All right.
He's the guest for our Halloween party.
It literally did count. The recorder did the countdown. 1, 2, 3. I came out of the pussy talking about 13 Ghosts. Like, it was dead on perfect.
I mean, it would be more impressive if Jamie didn't start every podcast out that way, but she always does.
It is weird that you do that. Yeah.
I gotta get my credentials out there. I might have a writing gig in this sometime.
Jamie, you could at least even it out and be like, I came out of the pussy talking about the rock and roller as we talk about the rock and roll, or something, like make it topical.
Exactly. It was really awkward when we recorded in that church.
All right, fine. I'll change it to Ghost Ship next time.
There we go. Welcome to Box Office Pulp, folks. I don't know where to go from here. Welcome to Box Office Pulp, your one-stop podcast for movies, madness, and moxie. Tonight, we've got a bop and a movie featuring not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5. I'm not going to go through them all. Not even 10 of your favorite ghosts, but 13 of them. That's right. 13 Ghosts is the movie for tonight. And I know what you're thinking. Like 13 spelled out, or like THIR 13en. And it's the latter one. We're doing 13 Ghosts, the new 13 Ghosts, not the 1960s 13 Ghosts. Anyways, I'm your host, Cody. Joining me today for this bop in a movie are my co-host, Mike. Say hello, Mike.
Two things. One, I mean, technically there are only 12 ghosts in this movie. Two...
You're right. Fuck you if you're right.
Two, how many acts of necrophilia took place after this movie?
Like, in the world of the movie, or just in general?
No, in the real world, like in general. Like, people watched the movie and then, like, got a job as a coroner and then, made sweet, sweet love to some corpses.
I feel like that's a question beyond me.
Oh, it's a question from beyond the grave, all right. Peter Cushing would know.
And say hello to my other co-host, Jamie.
So, are we talking about a fully awakened sexuality geared specifically towards any corpse, or specifically like sliced up female corpses? Like, are you imagining some guy going from mortuary to mortuary looking for his own angry princess?
You see, I like your version because that sounds like a movie plot, and I kind of want to write that. It can be called "Get Your Grave On." It's just his eternal search for the perfect fuckable corpse.
I come on your grave.
Yes!
Really, I think, though, Mike, what we need to pay attention to here is apparently every generation has one movie that makes it look like boning a ghost isn't that bad of an idea. I mean, actually, I take it back. Like the 80s had two of them. They had Ghost and they had Ghostbusters, where Dan Aykroyd gets the ghost blowjob. So, like, they were just a generation ripe on ghost fucking. We had 13 Ghosts with sexy ghosts. What's the new one? Is there, like, going to be a sexy witch in, like, The Conjuring 4?
I don't know. When was the last time a spirit made somebody nut in a movie? It feels like it's been a while.
It has been
Too
a while.
long. Too
Get on that shit, Hollywood. Like,
long.
where's Rebecca Ferguson playing a ghost?
Hasn't that happened?
Has it?
Is that The Awakening?
One of us would have to have watched The Awakening.
I don't know. Boy, I'm going to be probably really wrong on this. Hold on. I could have sworn she was in a ghost movie.
Is she in The Awakening?
I think you're just
We're a movie
misremembering.
podcast, and we don't know what the...
I think you two are just misremembering scenes from The Snowman.
No, okay, so I had the Rebecca part right. There is The Awakening from 2011 with Rebecca Hall. So maybe spoilers? I don't remember enough of what happens in that movie to actually know if she's a ghost.
If Rebecca Hall were a
so.
ghost, I'd be pretty into it.
Yeah, no, for sure.
And she's a director now, so that's even better.
Ooh.
She can put you in her next movie.
Sorry, wait.
If she could direct a movie being dead as a ghost, I mean,
I think we've lost the plot. We're supposed to be talking about 13 Ghosts, right?
So we lost the plot, much like the film 13 Ghosts.
Oh, I see what you did there. Folks, you know the deal with our commentary series. We're going to start the movie up in a minute, and we're going to talk over it the entire time. You're welcome.
Happy Halloween, by the way.
Happy Halloween. It's October 5th. So
no, they don't know this. This is.
Well, I told them they know this. They know this now.
No, God damn it! We're supposed
it's
to
an
pretend
illusion.
We're recording this live on October 31st.
Time's fake. It doesn't
Spooky,
matter. It's
scary
always Halloween.
skeletons send shivers down my spine, Cody.
Wow.
But if you want to watch the movie with us and pretend it's Halloween, cool, do that. I'm going to give you the official drink of the evening, and if you want to drink along with us while we watch the movie, hey, now we're talking, buddies. So tonight's drink is... Actually, I'm going to be honest with you before we get all the ingredients together. This is going to be god-awful. I haven't tried it yet. I know it's going to be bad. Don't do it.
They know this every time.
Yeah, sometimes they're good. This one I can almost guarantee you is going to be bad. So tonight's drink is called The Graveyard. And it's... oh, God. I'm technically on call at work tonight, so I'm only, I made this in a half version instead of a full version, and I still think it's going to kick my ass. So if you're making the full version, you don't make it like this. I added extra booze to it to make it a 13 Ghost graveyard. So this version has an ounce of vodka, an ounce of gin, an ounce of triple sec, an ounce of whiskey, an ounce of scotch, an ounce of tequila, a half ounce of white rum, a half ounce of a spice rum. I use Sailor Jerry's apple rum. A half ounce of an aged rum, 13 drops of Angostura bitters. 13 drops, mind you, not dashes. Don't use dashes, you'll die. 13 drops. And I've got that all mixed. I have this inside of my Boris Karloff mummy mug with a crazy straw coming out the top. And I've got to put the last two ingredients in, so we're doing that right now to see if I accidentally destroy my laptop. So once you have all the booze mixed together, you are then going to apply a float of a lager and a stout over top of your drink. So I now have my two beers, which are in different sized cans and a very tiny hole in the mummy head to pour these in because it's a tiki mug. And geez, it's going all right so far. Oh, fuck, I spilled. Okay. I decided to not pour the two beers at the same time, and that has made all the difference. Oh boy, this is going to be bad. Cool. Okay. I still have a lot of beer left over, so I'm going to put those in my boots to keep them cold. All right. There we go. Okay. Beer's down in the boots. Mummy in hand. Let's take a sip of this, see if it's as bad as I think it's going to be. Oh, that's surprisingly not the worst thing I've ever had. It's actually kind of palatable.
I like how you recreated the experience of watching 13 Ghosts for the first time.
What can I say? I mostly found fruity versions of the alcohols I listed. I forgot to list one. So if you're counting along with me, you're going to notice that I was short some alcohols. So when I was making this, I realized I didn't have enough. So you also need to throw in an ounce of creme de coco.
Do that, folks at home.
That'll get you. That'll get you up to 13, the magic number. There you go. It also gets a little bit of a chocolatey flavor on top of everything else, so it's delicious.
If you've taken a sip already, stop what you're doing.
Spit it out.
Do not swallow.
Although, like Mike said, spoilers from the movie, there are technically 12 ghosts. So if you don't put a spirit in, well, you're technically more accurate to the movie.
No, I take umbrage with that, but we'll go into that into the actual commentary.
And folks at home, if you want to make a traditional graveyard, that drink is 1 ounce of the following: vodka, gin, triple sec, whiskey, scotch, tequila, just one type of rum, and then a lager stout float. But I wanted 13 alcohol spirits for 13 ghosts. Get it? Yeah, you got it. You got it. It's funny. So we kind of improvised a little bit. I pulled the original recipe from the tipsybartender.com, which cautioned, and I quote, "Obviously, this is one of the strongest drinks ever and should be consumed with the utmost caution. Seriously, drink the graveyard 1 teaspoon at a time and wait, 30 minutes between each sip." That seems a little much to me. I'm not doing it that way. I've got my mummy mug filled up. I'm going to have fucking 20 ounces of this booze, and we're going to have a rip-roaring good time watching 13 Ghosts.
All right. Are we ready?
I think we're ready. Mike, do you want to count us down to start off 13 Ghosts?
1, 2, 3. Oh no, what have we done?
It's 13 Ghosts. This feels like this movie should have a rap song with it. A cool,
it does at the end.
Pop song that explains the entire plot of this particular
it doesn't explain the plot, but they cast a rap star just for a credit song, essentially.
Yeah. So folks, it's movie fact time again, your favorite part.
Yay!
13 Ghosts, directed by Steve Beck. Pretty short filmography for Steve. You know him from this film and also Ghost Ship. So he had 2 Dark Castle pictures.
Honestly, after those 2, you can rest on your laurels.
Right, yeah, you're good. Fuck, I feel bad talking over this because I really love this introduction.
This is the best part of the entire movie, honestly.
It's so cool. Our screenplay is by Neil Marshall Stevens and Richard Dovidio. Our cast, we've got Tony Shalhoub as Arthur Kritikos. I have to mention this every time I see him in a film. He's from Wisconsin. It's exciting. Woo-hoo! Tony Shalhoub from Green Bay, Wisconsin. One of us. Google gobble.
Big monk.
One of my favorite actors, Matthew Lillard, as Dennis Rafkin. You know him. He's Shaggy. He's Stu. He's great. We have Shannon Elizabeth as Kathy Kritikos. I thought going in, this is one of her first movies, but by this point in her career, she'd already been in 2 American Pie movies, plus Scary Movie and Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. So
Jack Frost.
Also that, yeah. Also, we have F. Murray Abraham as Cyrus Kritikos to give the movie some panache.
Just eating the scenery like that pussy that Jamie came out of.
Our music is by John Frizzell. He's probably most well known for his collaborations with Mike Judge. So he did Beavis and Butthead Do America, King of the Hill, Office Space. He's got a ton of horror credits, though, including 2 different Texas Chainsaw Massacre films, Texas Chainsaw 3D and Leatherface. Totally different continuities. Plus Ghost Ship, Alien Resurrection, I Still Know What You Did Last Summer, and Stay Alive. Our editing here is by Derek G. Brecken. We've mentioned him before. He did Doom, Deep Blue Sea, and The Patriot, amongst many others.
Also, I just want to say, Ghost Mobile!
No. Our other editor is Edward A. Warshilka. We've also mentioned him because he was the editor of Child's Play 3. We have a commentary track for that, folks. Self-promotion. He also did The Running Man, Big Trouble in Little China, In the Mouth of Madness, Vampires, Escape from L.A., all sorts of John Carpenter flicks.
See, I don't feel like the editor did much on this other than just have to listen to the director scream at him for more flash cuts.
The movie had a style. Leave it alone, Mike. The film came out October 26th, 2001. Budget was $42 million, which is actually kind of on the higher end for the Dark Castle Entertainment flicks, but we'll get into that later. Our worldwide box office, $68.5 million. So successful, but, didn't amaze the world. And obviously, this is a very, very loose remake of William Castle's 1960 film, 13 Ghosts. There you have it. Movie facts. Now, let's actually talk about what's happening on screen, because this opening scene is a lot of fun.
You did forget to talk about the set designer.
That's true. I probably should have thrown a lot of credit their way, because, man, the idea behind Dark Castle Entertainment was they kind of wanted to emulate William Castle flicks that are just set in one interesting location. So in this version, we have a giant glass house, as insane as that is. And before we get there, we actually have the sidebar where they're in this kind of Nightmare on Elm Street fucking car lot. I love this thing. Just look at that. Cars hanging for no reason up in the air, cubes everywhere. Beautiful.
So can we just take a moment to appreciate F. Murray Abraham and his Dracula cape?
Swirling around him. How nonplussed he is by this whole thing. Ghosts.
This was such a cool period for having F. Murray Abraham pop up for 5 minutes and things, because he was just starting to slum it. Like, he hadn't gone full Sci-Fi Channel presents Blood Monkey yet.
I mean, he's not even really in that much in the movie either, so he gets to show up, act for like 3 scenes, and then cash his checks. It's really a good deal.
I'm sure he got to keep the cane.
So, the actor who just popped up, Damon, actually has a couple of interviews on the Scream Factory Collector's Edition of this film. He's got some pretty fun stories about, I mean, this is one scene, but he's got some pretty good stories about this. So the actor's name also is Matthew. He met Matthew Lillard, like, when they're about to record this. Matthew Lillard comes up, introduces, just says, "Hey, are you so-and-so? Good to meet you. Good luck out there." And then Matthew Lillard goes off to the side and psychs himself up for this scene. So he's just yelling at himself, "Don't screw this up, Matthew! Don't fuck this up, Matthew!" And he's just, like, jumping up and down. The other actor, again, whose name is Matthew, is thinking that Matthew Lillard is just screaming at him to not fuck up the scene. Because he didn't realize this was Matthew Lillard. So it's only after, like, they introduce each other again later, they realize, like, oh, cool, that guy's not insane and angry at me for no reason.
What an amazing mind game that would have been on Lillard's part, though.
Hey, good to meet you. Don't fuck this up!
I love Lillard psyching himself up for this.
The Bloodmobile!
I mean, Lillard has to be at... you have to give it up to Matthew Lillard for being able to maintain a consistent level of energy throughout this movie, because he's end of Scream stew the entire runtime.
It's exhausting. It's like, God, no wonder he's in such good shape.
I love that and the character is a lot of fun too, because he's high energy, but he's also really negative high energy. You normally don't get that. Normally high energy people in film are also portrayed as like, woo, come on, let's do this, fun, yeah. This guy hates being here and just happens to be very energetic.
Honestly, why isn't he the main character? He does all of the plot stuff. He pushes everything forward. He has actual stuff going on.
It was hilarious watching the trailer to this for the first time since it came out earlier today, and seeing how much they try to hide the fact that Tony Shalhoub is the main character. Like, that trailer is so loving to Matthew Lillard. It treats him like he's Blade, and he's here to take down these ghosts.
Even hearing interviews with Steve Beck talking about, like, Arthur's role in this movie. This whole thing is like, yeah, he's really fucked up because his wife is dead, and he's trying to be protective of his kids. And in the end of the movie, his arc is he decides he just can't live without them, so he willingly kind of like throws his life away to join them in the circle. Which is such a weird character arc, like, fuck it, might as well die, my kids are in danger. But apparently that's what he needed. To back up, I love that gag of the guy just being ripped in half and like
awesome.
folded in on himself, just eaten by the car. Yes! And our first sighting of the ghost, the Breaker! Oh, he smashes a man with a car. Fucking phenomenal. God, I would love to see a whole horror movie just set in this location.
This opening, like, treats the Juggernaut like, no, this is the main villain of the movie, but then everyone gravitated towards the Jackal.
Right. Well, throughout the movie, too, they talk like, he's the most dangerous ghost. But visually, he's not as interesting as the guy who's got his head inside of, like, a cage.
Yeah.
The ghost of Tom Waits in Coppola's Dracula. I have to say, I do admire the balls of, anyway, here's this person dying.
We'll get back to the glasses in a bit, but if you've never seen the original William Castle version of 13 Ghosts, Castle always had a gimmick for his films. And in 13 Ghosts, the gimmick was he gave you a pair of spectacles to see specters. So one frame in the glasses were red, and they would bring out ghosts, and the other half was blue. And when the screen changed colors, you're supposed to put your glasses on so you could either see or block the ghosts out, depending on how scared you were. This version of the movie pays homage to that by having the special kind of high-tech glasses that the characters have to wear if they want to see the ghosts.
Now, there is a very important distinction to make there, I feel, which is, in this intro, Castle says that the red is for if you believe in ghosts.
That's true.
The blue is if you do not believe in ghosts, which implies that at least one person watched that movie and refused to see any ghosts because he was a man of science.
So on the home release of the film, the effect still works. I just rewatched the movie recently, and I used a pair of 3D glasses from Friday the 13th Part 3D, the old Blu-ray release of that came with glasses. Mm-hmm. And I just had to close one eye because one eye is red, one's blue. So I just covered the blue eye. And you can actually see the ghost effects. If you do not have the red glasses, it's almost impossible to be able to see the ghosts on that film. Made a huge difference. A lot more fun that way.
I do want to say, I really like how economical this opening is. It's weird from this director to suddenly get something like randomly artsy. I mean, it's a little bit over the top with some of like the 911 call stuff, but it does a pretty good job.
On a technical aspect, too, I love this. So they actually had the camera motorized, like they're doing a stop-motion film, and it would play through the apartment, and then they'd redress it, reset the camera, and then it could go film it again. And this time, it would show a little bit more weather damage, more fire damage, and you could keep going through until you had the end effect. Then you just kind of overlay those shots together with fades and change out how the film looks while it's still controlling itself, like still going through that pan. I think it's really neat. It's very simple, no CGI required. Plus, like Mike said, it does really tell you the entire story in about a 30-second shot.
And then it's immediately ruined by, but you still pay for a maid.
That's weird. Yeah,
that has confused me for so long. Like they could have at least made her a housekeeper, but no, she is specific. Or not a housekeeper, but a nanny for the kids. But no, she is specifically a maid for that crap shack.
I always just assumed that was kind of a throwback to the original 13 Ghosts, because in that film the house just comes with a maid who happens to be the witch from The Wizard of Oz. What is her name? Is it Margaret Hamilton? Was she the Wicked Witch? Okay.
Yeah.
It's a bit of stunt casting. Yeah, well, she pops up like towards the end of the movie because everyone like the whole time's like, oh, the maid is such a witch. And then, sure enough, she walks out and everyone's like, oh, fuck, it is a witch. Okay.
That makes that movie slightly entertaining.
Yeah.
As God, there's a lot you can josh 13 Ghosts about, but I think we can all agree it is at least a significantly better movie than the one it's remaking.
Oh, much. The 13 Ghosts remake fascinates me. Like, we all love it fucking dearly. Like, this is just endlessly the best. But it's amazing from when you just like look at the movie. How a movie is so endlessly and effortlessly watchable and fun while also being unwatchably bad. Like, its problems are unwatchable in just how dumb they are. Like, it's incredible to me. It's like they got all the best people. And then, no offense to Beck, I'm sure is a lovely person, and then hired probably the worst person to actually put it all together. Even though he came up with pretty much all the like ghost backstory shit that created the short film on the Blu-ray, but it's like, wow, this is a lot of like special effects people and set designers and and actors doing like incredible work, but there's no brain at all.
I mean, Beck's background really, he started off as a visual effects art director on a lot of big pictures. And I think he brings those skills to the table. The movie is really cool to watch. Like it's if you turned off the volume and just kind of watched it, you'd be drawn in. Story-wise, sure, I don't think there's anything to really write home about. But I also think the intent was to make a roller coaster of a film. They're not even trying to pretend this is heavy on artistic merits. They're just trying to entertain you for 90 minutes.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. I don't have the problems with the screenplay or the characters of this film that a lot of people have. I think the script is exactly what it's trying to be, a glorified haunted house ride. But I feel like 13 Ghosts and its sister movie, Ghost Ship, the only two movies in the world that have that exact tone. I feel like they're perfect examples of good movies made by bad directors.
Yeah.
Which is something people don't talk about a lot. Everyone will harp endlessly on like whenever good directors go bad. I don't feel like there's enough talk about how every single thing can go right with a movie, including the selection of people the director is surrounding himself with, and even the ideas the director has. But the guy just bungles the execution.
Well, this one is interesting, too, because it was a Joel Silver production. Like, one of the biggest producers Hollywood's ever seen, right? And according to Steve Beck, Silver had recently come off the first Matrix movie when they started production of this film. And Silver was just exhausted from being really hands-on in that film because it's so big and there's so many special effects. So when they started this film up, Silver was basically like, whatever, if it works, it works. Don't bother me. Which gave him a little bit more freedom to make the movie the way he wanted. Who knows how this would be different if it had a heavy hand from a producer watching over the whole thing who really wanted his way on changes. I think we're kind of lucky to get this weirdo movie the way it is, just kind of unsupervised.
Oh, yeah.
Now, it's the thing that drives me crazy with Beck's films. They are so unique and have such a specific tone. I don't know if they would be movies we'd look back fondly on if a much more skilled director were attached to them. I think, especially 13 Ghosts, it has that same quality that a lot of great 80s schlock has, where if it were more of a traditionally good movie, it would probably not be anywhere near as memorable, even if it was a really good horror movie.
Kind of the Sci-Fi Channel original syndrome?
Yeah, a bit. There's something so deeply endearing with how... Like, 13 Ghosts is the horror movie equivalent of a big dumb dog that rushes out the door to lick your face whenever you come home. Like, 13 Ghosts is very endearing in its early 2000s dopiness.
I mean, I love the film because it really sets the tone in my mind for 2000s horror.
Yeah.
Like if you
absolutely.
Even more so than House on Haunted Hill.
Yeah, I think in particular, if you just look at Dark Castle movies, like all the stuff they made in the early 2000s, if you lay that next to like Platinum Dune's remake of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, you have the basis for what I imagine the entire decade is. Like, I think 2000s horror, I think some sort of amalgamation of those styles of films.
That and maybe Verbinski's Ring remake.
Yeah. The funny part to me, though, is this film wasn't all that successful. Like, we covered it already. The box office was good, like $68 million worldwide on a budget of 40-some million. So, it made a little over its production budget. But honestly, for Dark Castle, their big moneymaker was Gothica, just like a short amount of time later. And for some reason, people never think of Gothica. Gothica doesn't seem like it defined the whole zeitgeist the same way that House on Haunted Hill and 13 Ghosts did. I don't know if it's just because 13 Ghosts got replayed endlessly on Sci-Fi Channel, and
I think that
Gothica
helped.
did not.
This was like a TNT favorite.
Oh, yeah. I see a lot more reappraisal for Gothica now. Like, it seems to be finding its audience, but yeah, Gothica just got put on the scrap heap of history for the longest time, which is weird considering the cast that movie has.
Yeah, okay, so Gothica came out 2 years after this film. They had Ghost Ship in between. Its budget was $40 million. It made $142 million worldwide. Like, Gothica cleaned house. None of the other Dark Castle movies even approached that level of success. And yet, that's the one people kind of forget about. They always remember House of Wax or Ghost Ship.
Oh god, you know what I just realized? You know what song Gothica ends with? The Limp Bizkit cover of Behind Blue Eyes. Why couldn't that have ended 13 Ghosts? That would have been perfect.
Jamie, I literally watched Gothica 2 days ago, and I already blocked that out of my mind, and now you put it back.
I would say Gothica kind of like went out just because that it's only really now that people are back on like, oh cool, Halle Berry's in something.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like every couple of years she gets something big. A few years back, she was in John Wick 3, and everyone was very excited. She had that one thriller, was it like Cellular or something like that, where, you know,
The Call.
The Call, yes.
That WWF movie.
Yeah, that was pretty successful. So every once in a while she pops up and everyone's excited.
Going back to what you were saying about the love that was fostered with this movie, with like repeats on TNT and Sci-Fi Channel. I love watching discarded movies become cult classics in real time. Like, I've seen that happen with Dead Silence over the past couple of years, where a lot of people who saw that movie on cable when they were like 11, like, kind of were young enough to overlook the flaws that made people discard it at the time, and they fucking love that movie. And I kind of feel like 13 Ghosts was definitely one of those. This is such an awesome horror movie for a 12-year-old.
See, I couldn't see this one in theaters. Like, I just wasn't allowed. My parents wouldn't let me go into, like, R-rated movies. So this is a weird case for me where I just downloaded the script for the film and I read it one night.
You put on your reading glasses and sat down by the fire.
That was it. I saw the trailers for 13 Ghosts. I'm like, this looks amazing. Like, my friends went to go see it because their parents didn't give a shit if they saw R-rated stuff. And I was like, So I just...
You puffed on your pipe. You were like, I don't know about this breaker, fellow. Ooh, watch out, Tony Shalhoub.
So I read the script, and it still cracks me up because I just remember how big a point the script puts on Tony Shalhoub at the end, like, internally. Wait, I'm a math teacher. We see Tony Shalhoub start counting. As he goes through the ghosts, he's like, there's only 12 ghosts. Like, his realization's been bamboozled.
It's always a sign of a good screenplay when the screenplay stops to give the character an internal monologue that's not in the actual movie.
So yeah, it was very funny as a child reading that. And I'm like, he's a math teacher and he's just figuring this out? I've been counting the ghosts the whole time, motherfucker.
So wait, so they even do the fucking repeats of the exposition in the script? I just think that was an editing thing.
Like, we're calling ways back now, but in my memory, yeah, they actually, like, they stop and Tony Shalhoub, like, realizes that Cyrus is lying to him because he goes back and he counts all the ghosts on his fingers one by one and realizes there's short one. And that since there's no 13th ghost, that he's trying to make him the 13th ghost. It's very silly. I want to say, though, I think, if I remember right, the script I read was pretty close to what you see in front of you now. So I don't think there was a ton of improvisation. I don't think there was a lot of last-minute crazy re-editing to put plot points together. I think they basically had a script and they ran with it. Mike. Pop quiz, name the ghosts.
Oh, fuck you.
If we wait too long, they're going to say them for you. So you got to hit it now.
Let's see: the Juggernaut, the Bloody Princess, the Jackal, the baby, and freaking forget the mother's name. The something prince, I forget.
It's the Great Child and the Dire Mother.
That's it. See, it's ruined for me because of the fucking Trick or Treat commentary. It seems the baby now. God,
this is like the smarmiest lawyer in the world. It's perfect.
He has strong Davidoff energy.
Look at those eyes. Those eyes look like contacts. They're not real. I also think he's a throwback to the original 13 Ghosts. In that movie, there's a friendly lawyer who is helping the family take over the estate, and he's trying to kind of encourage them to leave. Because it turns out the uncle has hidden money in the house at his suggestion before the uncle died. And so the lawyer is trying to scare the family away so he can go through the house and find the uncle's money. So in all versions of this movie, the lawyer is a dick.
It's in the stairwell. The money's in the stairwell.
It is, yeah, spoilers.
So I feel like Hanna-Barbera owes a lot to the films of Howard Castle.
I'm sorry, now I'm just imagining Scooby-Doo in this house.
That's a crossover we all need to see. I'm really mad at myself for having just rewatched this, and I've already forgotten the name of most of the ghosts.
So it's the firstborn son, the torso, the bound woman, the withered lover, the torn prince, the angry princess, the pilgrimess, which doesn't seem fair because she's like barely in the movie, the great child, the dire mother, the hammer, the jackal, the juggernaut. And then Arthur's supposed to be the final ghost, which... do they ever say, like, what's his cool title? Does he get, like...
Yeah, they do.
He is, I believe, the torn heart... No, the broken heart, or something like that line.
The withered cuckold.
Monk.
Also, I feel like it doesn't count if you can't remember the ghosts that don't do anything.
Yeah,
the torso literally just shows up, like, for one shot, essentially.
Yeah, which is weird, because I always assumed it was a puppet. It turns out they actually hired a guy who like didn't have legs, and they had him do the torso.
Didn't have legs, didn't have a head. It was weird.
They dug up a body.
You know, the editing style of this movie really makes sense if Lillard was the main character.
Just flashes of intuition. Yeah, it's definitely it is kind of edited from his point of view.
God, this dude is so Wishmaster.
His teeth, his fake ass teeth.
It's either Davidoff or the fucking lawyer demon from Keanu Reeves' Constantine movie. Fire, I was born with it.
You beat me to it.
Yeah.
Oh no,
so
old.
We're in a very early stage of CGI at this point. Again, this is 2001. So it's fascinating to look in the backgrounds and you see like CGI doors and gears and that kind of stuff. But the ghosts are by and large entirely practical creations. It's just really good makeup. It's prosthetics and just latex masks and stuff. This was about the end of an era, because shortly after this, we realized, okay, we can start making The Rock into a CGI scorpion. We don't need to bother keeping a person in a chair for 14 hours as we apply plastics to them. But it's a shame because, boy, is it cool. I absolutely love the look and design of every ghost in this movie.
Was this one of the last times K&B got, like, a fuck ton of money?
Yeah.
Until, like, Walking Dead, essentially.
Mm-hmm. Also funny to me, this movie, I mean, $40 million or whatever his budget was, pretty decent. But the whole idea of Dark Castle Entertainment was they wanted to make movies of a responsible budget. You're not going to make an R-rated movie that's got like a $60 million budget. You don't want to make one that's like $5,000 because then no one will see it. It's too cheap. So they're trying to hit a sweet middle ground, $20, $30 million pictures where they still have enough money to make those kind of ghosts that we just saw possible and really effective and realistic. It's a business plan I really enjoy, and I wish we had more mid-range movies, but everything right now feels like it's either micro budget or a $250 million giant popcorn.
Very little medium sized in between movies. Also, going back to the Ghost for a second, one of the my favorite aspects of the way they're shot is the water reflection effects on them. I've never seen that in regards to Ghost before. That's really unique to this movie, and I love that it gets across that you're looking at them through glasses, but also just gives like the netherworld a very unique aesthetic.
The ghosts here are really cool. Like they kind of seem like they're floating, like they kind of put a power fan in front of them. But it's not like different directors have different distinct styles of ghosts, and they kind of catch on in different ways. Like for a while we had the ghosts from The Others, which are essentially just people, maybe a little bit more pale, because you're trying to blur that line of are they living or dead. Same with The Sixth Sense. Then you had the Devil's Backbone style ghosts that Guillermo del Toro really popularized, where they're otherworldly white, they're kind of transparent, and they've got like fluids leaking out of them against gravity. Like they're kind of like vapors almost with human form. I like the version of ghosts we get here where they feel like, nope, that's clearly a person standing in front of them. They're just totally invisible sometimes if you don't have the glasses on. Also, all the wounds they incurred when they died are kind of exaggerated cartoonishly in their ghostly form. I like the caricature style of ghosts that we get in this film, because the whole movie is a roller coaster ride. They don't need to be subtle.
So do we pass the goats line already?
Oh no, that comes later.
Also, hey,
Jamie's
Spawn
only here
showing
for
up
that.
for 5 seconds. I just like pointing out the one of like 2 James Gunn lines that actually made it into this movie.
See, I like how I was watching the trailer earlier today. That was the top comment, was that was the greatest exchange in movie history.
Also, is Shannon Elizabeth's character just fucking high throughout this entire movie? I'm just so confused by her character.
Yeah, I remember whenever we were watching this at your place, my girlfriend, like sitting down after getting a drink, just staring at the screen during that sequence and going, so she took like an edible on the way over, right?
Real 90 kids get through their house this way.
Also, we're in the glass house now, so it's good to talk about maybe one of the greatest sets ever built, but also, was this set made of nothing but windows? Difficult to film in? Yes, nearly impossible. The only reason there's writing on all the walls is so people wouldn't bump into them and kill themselves.
Oh, God.
They really stressed the tidbit in the making of features that if you weren't in front of the camera, you were supposed to be wearing like all black clothing and try and minimize reflections in any way possible. Because they would spend like half hour at a time trying to figure out where the fuck a reflection was coming from. It'd be like 5 rooms over, just bounce between different panels of glass. Even apparently it was tough to make the sets because glass is super heavy. Most sets are just made of like plywood dressed up. Because these were all like panes of glass, they had to use steel to reinforce the sets so they didn't like break down and crash through the floor.
Yeah, this is essentially a fucking skyscraper they built. Just house-sized.
I mean, wildly impractical too. Who the fuck in the world would ever want a house made out of glass in any capacity? Like, no part of that seems fun.
The family that Lele Sobieski ends up with in the 2000s thriller The Glass House.
Glad your mind goes there too. There's a reason this is like the fucking set designer is like the one person who's gone on to have this amazing career.
Besides Greg Nicotero.
He already had an amazing career.
It just kind of kept rolling on. It is a really cool design. I have to give him that. Like, I love the idea that there's just spells written into the house to keep the ghosts in place.
It's such a cool fucking concept. Like, look,
the house is a maze. It's like Harry Potter. It can just move around whenever it wants, and you just can't know where you're going. It's a glass labyrinth.
I said I love this movie, but it is like, man, this is a great fucking concept and setup, and it's for this movie. It's like, can we get another remake that takes the idea of this, but then just puts effort into the script or something.
To interrupt, that shot there we just saw of the insert of him pushing the secret button to open the doors. A direct homage to the original film where there's a secret button that activates a deathbed. If you push this button, the bed lowers down and can crush a man inside of it, which is how the lawyer dies in the original film. He pushes the button to kill the child character, the little boy. He gets attacked by the uncle ghost. The man panics and then jumps into the bed as it's crushing him, and he dies.
I like how it's specifically this one subplot where they pay homage to the original.
They took what they needed to.
Shaggy.
I have to say, too, as a child, I was once traumatized by trying to escape a hall of mirrors, so I really understand the appeal of just making
that sounds about
a house like this for something terrifying. Man. So, back in the day, the idea was Dark Castle wanted to put out a movie every Halloween. They wanted to do Saw before Saw was around. Every Halloween, they would just have a new Dark Castle entertainment flick out in theaters. And unfortunately, there was, I believe it was a writer's strike going kind of on between films, like for Ghost Ship or something, that pushed that one back out of its original slot. And then they were just never able to reclaim the October period the way they wanted. Which is too bad, 'cause just imagine that universe where instead of getting like 6 Saw movies in a row every October and just dominating the landscape, it was a film like this. We had like some sort of weird William Castle spin-off each October. Like there's Shivers in 2003. Or not Shivers, The Tingler in 2003.
God, I would give anything for a 2000s version of The Tingler.
Wouldn't that be cool? Hold on. Also, what a great gag. Fuck. Oh, man. So they had a puppet of this guy cut in half, and he's actually sliding down, and then they digitally mapped the actor's face to the puppet. Which is really impressive for digital mapping in 2001. Like, that looks like they actually had a very realistic puppet, not some sort of digital projection.
Yeah, I always assumed that was just, like, way ahead of its time CGI. Like, that was the one thing they spent the CGI budget on.
You can tell if you look at the mouth, because it doesn't quite move like a normal mouth. You know, it just kind of wobbles side to side. But, like, the eyes look so real, so you forgive it. Honestly, I think that's such a cool effect. And the fact they didn't have to cut it down. I know this is an R-rated flick, but that's very gory. And they hang on the guy's innards just sliding down the wall. They really let him get away with that.
So we're a bit away from it, but seeing the torn prints in front of his busted up car and what I can only assume is some kind of greaser chamber made me think. So all of the monsters being kept in the transparent glass cubes at the end of Cabin in the Woods is totally a reference to this, right?
I feel like it's gotta be. Like, they must have taken that idea partially from here, right?
I feel like it's that, or it's a really deep-cut reference to the Cenobites being in glass cubes in the original script for Hellraiser.
Nobody needs more hardcore pornography. So the CGI of these gears actually weirdly holds up.
Somewhere, Guillermo del Toro is just shouting in joy watching this.
This is like Del Toro's house.
Welcome to Bleak House 2.
One thing I miss about the aesthetic of the 2000s was the inexplicable obsession with gyroscopes. Like, if you did a sci-fi horror movie, or even like just a straight sci-fi movie, you had to have a giant gyroscopic machine with gears spinning everywhere. That was the entire design for the Time Machine in that remake.
I'm pretty sure that's like Rasputin's machine at the start of Hellboy 2. It's just
that was the ultimate one.
Honestly, Hellboy 1 was what, 2004? That's only a couple of years after this.
Yeah. Hellboy 1 has a strong early 2000s aesthetic.
It does.
It's kind of
I don't say that in a bad way whatsoever. I love it. No. I love Hellboy.
There's nothing wrong with the fucking early 2000s aesthetic. It's just whenever the movies were bad.
Yeah. Well, in my mind, too, I grew up with these is like when I was really getting into horror. So this is the kind of horror film I really want, where it's kind of doofy, more fun. There's still disturbing, macabre elements to it, but it's more like you could imagine it being a really fun carnival ride more so than anything else.
Here's my problem with. I mean, I get it. We were all, a lot of us were snobbish in like the 2000s for horror, and there was a lot of reasons to be snobbish for a lot of what happened to horror in the, early and mid 2000s. We got a lot of the J horror remakes, the PG-13 stuff, blah blah blah. Essentially rip-offs of this, which is an interesting rabbit hole for Hollywood to have gone down. But I'm glad they're being reappraised now as kind of the schlocky ridiculousness that they were, because it doesn't make much sense to be snobbish towards them, but we all fucking love 80s schlock. It's like it's just the 2000s version of that. We were just conscious and not in a womb while these were being made, essentially.
One thing that throws me, though, is everyone talks about, the 80s, the golden age of horror. And it's like, 80s just, we got spoiled because there were 1,000 low-budget slasher films, like one after another. Not necessarily good movies, but there were just so many of them. And then everyone talks about the 90s being a wasteland for horror, which doesn't truly seem fair the more I think about that concept. Because, we had Candyman during that period. We had fucking The Silence of the Lambs winning the Oscar. I would consider The Silence of the Lambs horror. I know some people are opposed to that. I would definitely throw it in. You had Scream in 96, and from that point on, there was a new slasher boom that was, more self-aware and meta. There were a couple years where it was kind of light, and I think people were just bitter because it was the wind down of the classic slasher. You're getting the latter day Friday the 13th and Nightmare on Elm Street that people just don't like as much.
Yeah, the 90s is just like kind of a waiting room for horror rather than it is a decline. It's just a transition period where you're just kind of getting movies that aren't quite what you remember and aren't quite what the genre was going to become. So a lot of those entries just don't really sit well on your tongue.
It wasn't a volume there wasn't as much volume, I think, either, was the real big problem. Like, even now, the 2000s, we get a pretty good number of horror films coming out constantly, just because people can make low-budget films and release them on demand, so there's a market for them.
I mean, we're in
Whereas in the 90s, it was a lot harder. It was hard to make an indie film like this and get it distributed. It was just starting to boom later in the 90s.
And indie films didn't go for horror back then. They went for more comedies or slice of life stuff. Like, that was a whole different kind of renaissance. 80s was the mecca of horror because about 1,000 to 2,000 movies came out a fucking year. And yeah, there was like a big certain aesthetic to them that made them perfect. But when you're making so many, when so much is coming out, both from a studio perspective, you have direct to VHS, you just have people, fans of horror, who've now reached the age where they're being able to make stuff, where you get like Sam Raimi's and whatnot. When you just have so much, you're going to get a lot of classics, because how the fuck would you not when there's that much in the pool at all times? When in the 90s there wasn't a lot, but there was a lot more quality. There was still plenty of like schlocky shit coming out, and I think there's a lot of more rediscovery now of 90s horror. I'm glad Creator VC is going to do that 90s horror documentary and really highlight some of the shit, because why aren't we talking more about like Wishmaster or Sandstalker or shit like that?
Yeah. It's fucking circuitry, man, like a motherfucker.
I enjoy how we've somehow gone into a great discussion about every decade of horror except for the one this one belongs to.
Well,
there's a bleed-in period. So this is 2001. Yeah. This is really like, this is the turning point of 90s horror into millennial horror.
Yeah, this is 2000s horror finding itself. Like, this is the birth of it. Even more so than like House on Haunted Hill, which still has like this weird 90s aesthetic to it, which is kind of fun.
And oddly, way more prevalent CGI.
A lot more CGI.
First.
Oh, 13 Ghosts is the horror equivalent of Raimi's first Spider-Man. It's like you can see the decade crossing over during the running time of the film.
Because really, up until Dark Castle, the only thing we really had was, well, Scream was popular, do more of that.
You know, I think that's the thing, where that's one of the reasons why it always comes across like the 2000s didn't have a particular aesthetic, or that the 2000s was just a graveyard for horror. It's not that there wasn't a 2000s horror aesthetic, it's just it burned out so quickly. Even like the 90s stuff burned out so quickly. Like the Scream era of horror was a couple of years. The Dark Castle era of horror was a couple of years. Even the J-horror remake boom was like, what, 3 years of movies?
It wasn't super long, but people remember it being like a period that never ended. I think the same is also true of the torture porn era. It stretched out because people remember Saws going for, literally like 7 years in a row. But really, we didn't have extreme kind of torture movies during that entire tenure of Saw. We had a couple of years of it, but people realized like, oh, they're not catching on the same way, so they just never had the same grab.
Yeah.
There were a lot of torture porn movies made in the wake of Saw and Hostile, but the majority of them were just flooding the direct-to-video market because they could be made so cheaply. Like, you got a few gore effects you can afford, you've got a movie.
And they were kind of already there, honestly.
Yeah.
I think it just shows an interesting societal thing, and not in a bad way. It's just, the 80s aesthetic was from throughout the entire fucking decade. Like, that was a decade of pretty much a singular aesthetic when it came to just pop culture. Same thing pretty much with the 70s, and the 60s was a little half and half. It wasn't really till like mid 60s you get into the 60s aesthetic. But now aesthetics alter a lot quicker. So movie studios still pretty much attempt to ride a wave of aesthetic, but it's only till now I think they understand that the aesthetic does change much quicker than it used to, where you could get 10 years out of a singular style of film. Now it just burns out quicker because people do move on to other things. I think it's just pop culture is a larger cross section of pop culture is able to be digested versus how it used to be back in the day, which is so people would just on the same pop culture pretty much until they were in their 40s, and then they just stop. So,
well, I'm just thinking of the 1950s with radioactive sci-fi horror.
Yeah,
you would have those movies, but you didn't have a VCR. You'd be able to catch the movies like as they played in the drive-thru. So it wasn't like you were able to wait for it to come out on disc, watch it, and then immediately watch the sequel back to back or anything like that. You had to wait for the drive-thru. So the production pipeline was, a lot thicker, more viscous. It took time to get through these things. So you could hold on to trends way longer. But it is interesting what you said before about how Dark Castle's reign really wasn't that long. And it is funny because if you look back at it, I for some reason thought Dark Castle for years was responsible for hundreds of films in the 2000s. You look at it, they had House on Haunted Hill in 1999, 13 Ghosts in 2001, Ghost Ship 2002, Gothika 2003, House of Wax 2005, and then it really tails off because the ones after that people don't remember as much. There's The Reaping, the direct-to-video return to the House on Haunted Hill in 2007. They spun off and did Rock and Rolla in 2008. But then they had like The Hills Run Red, which I don't think ever got a theatrical run, or if it was super limited. I think that one got just stuck on a shelf for years, the same way Trick or Treat did.
They did not want to release The Hills Run Red.
Nah, and then
the creepy rape ending probably had to do a lot with that.
Probably. Then there's stuff like Whiteout, Ninja Assassin. They kind of did weird stuff. The Losers. They did a lot of films that weren't really horror anymore. They did do Splice, which actually got them more critical aplomb than probably anything else they've ever done.
I forgot they were involved in Splice. Yeah,
I think they just picked it up. I don't think they actually put the money down for that one.
It kind of just became a distributor, pretty much.
Right.
House of Wax seemed to be the big last hurrah for the idea of what Dark Castle was always supposed to be.
Yeah, I mean, you get horror films from them every once in a while. They did Orphan in 2009, which feels like it should be like a late era Hammer film to me for some reason. Then they did The Apparition. They have a split, like they have stuff, The Factory, Bullet to the Head, Unknown. So like Liam Neeson kind of stuff. Getaway. Suburbicon, remember that? George Clooney's movie? Hold on, this one, it actually cracks me up. I haven't checked this out, but 2017, Wikipedia lists Suburbicon, citation needed.
Did anybody release that?
Like, what is the citation on? Like, is it a Dark Castle flick? I feel like you could just watch the credits and know that one. They don't hide the logo. I was fascinated recently because I sat down to watch the movie Seance from Simon Barrett from You're Next. And that's a Dark Castle Entertainment picture. I was not expecting the logo when I popped that movie in. So that was really exciting to see they're still cranking stuff out.
Yeah, I always forget they didn't go out of business like 8 years ago and got bought up by Lionsgate or something.
These have like 5 years between movies now. They do have a sequel to Orphan coming out, which is so weird to me. I don't understand how that's going to work. And as you comb through like their Wikipedia page, there's weird stuff where apparently Blumhouse reached out to them at some point and wanted to do a co-production, but they haven't found a project they want to do yet.
13 Ghosts.
2. 13er Ghosts. 14 Ghosts?
No, this time there's actually 13 ghosts. Going back to the movie for a second, this fascinates me.
No.
You have the glasses gimmick of the film so people can see ghosts. So you'd think like that would be used. Okay, so that way characters who don't believe in ghosts put them on, then they see ghosts and we just get that out of the way. No, it still takes forever for characters to put the glasses on and actually believe they're a ghost. Arthur, the main character, doesn't put on a fucking pair of glasses and believes there's ghosts till like the third act.
We have like 40 minutes left in this movie, and I'm pretty sure there's several characters who have not put the glasses on yet. There we go. Oh. Speak of the devil.
Oh, it's fascinating every time I rewatch this movie, I'm always taken aback by just how much nothing there is for long stretches of time.
There's very little that truly happens in the film. Like
they split up in one. This is like Josh, the movie.
It is kind of amazing they didn't think the Jackal was going to be the crowd favorite, but I guess you can never predict what people are into. Like a lunatic in a chewed-out straitjacket with a metal basket on their head. Like, visually, that's so cool. How do you not think people are going to flock towards it?
Also, hey, this character.
Should really ass-kicking Embeth Davis.
Embeth Davis is so good, and it's like, why this character? Just this walking plot device that doesn't really make any sense.
We need this character here to be a second person who can explain the plot.
Like how Matthew Lillards cautions, like, don't move, like the ghosts are fucking T-Rexes. Their hauntings based on movement. I'm amazed, too, though, that with all the nostalgia for this film, that we haven't seen a company like Nika pick up the rights to do a ghost line. Like, you don't have to make all the figures.
McFarlane to pick it up, though.
Right. It would be very cool to have a Jackal figure or the Juggernaut or the Breaker. Any of those guys would be pretty dope to have as action figures, like a 6-inch.
I want the baby.
Give me the baby.
Now, McFarlane would absolutely do the baby first.
And if McFarlane gets the rights to him, they can all show up in Spawn.
Oh. I mean, honestly, all the ghosts have kind of fun, although simple backstories. Each one feels like it could have a prequel movie dedicated to them. Like the big baby and the doting mother, they're just circus freaks that happen to die in the circus. Like, okay, there's a lot of room for that. That could be an interesting horror movie. The Jackal, definitely an interesting horror movie. The Juggernaut, all these guys, like, fuck, any one of those in a haunting movie would be amazing, and I would love to watch it more so than a majority of movies I watch.
The Juggernaut is basically Candyman.
Pretty close, yeah. But bulkier. Jacked Candyman.
If no one ever has lots of these special feature for kind of like the storybook telling of the origin of all the ghosts, the backstory that was come up for the movie but isn't actually in the movie. You can find it on YouTube about 1,000 times. I recommend it. It's fantastic.
Yeah. It's on the DVD. It's on the Scream Factory Blu-ray as well. It's fun to watch, although it does kind of remove the mystery of the thing. It's fun just watching the movie and just having like a torso appear and not knowing what the fuck that's about.
Yeah, I have no idea where they'd actually put any of that backstory in the film, but I love that a movie's worth of backstory was written anyway. The 13 Ghosts in general randomly had one of the greatest DVD releases of all time.
It was back in the day when you can just, where no matter what the movie was, the DVD would be fucking jacked. You get a great box. There'd be just tchotchkes everywhere. It was full of special features. Tons of money went into it. The studio wouldn't care if no one watched the movie. Just they would still go out of their way.
Oh, you can find romantic comedies that have like an hour-long featurette on the cinematographer's love affair with Italy.
Honestly, 6 commentaries. It's amazing.
That was one of my favorite memories as a kid, just like getting Anchor Bay movies, and then they'd have like 3 discs. Like, here's 4 cuts of Army of Darkness. Like, oh, hell yeah, okay, cool.
So many European extremes.
Fucking movie fans coming up to age now will never know the delight of sitting down with a drink and, in my case, most likely a TV dinner, and just pouring through a DVD's special features for an evening. Like, just sitting down with the Hellboy DVD like it was a date.
Just looking
Del
for all
Toro
the
was like,
Easter
motherfucker,
eggs.
you're not going to leave. This is going to be 6 hours of entertainment at at least.
One of my favorite memories was watching the entire special features disc, well, the 2 special features discs on the Fellowship of the Ring extended editions, which I think were 12 hours long altogether.
Oh, yeah. It cracks me up now, though, because if you like pick up a movie that brags about having special features, they're always like, over 2 hours of features, and then an hour and a half of that will be like a commentary track.
If you get a commentary track.
Right. I just picked up Escape Room 2 today, Tournament of Champions, and I'm very curious about that because it brags that the special features includes alternate cut of the movie, and from what I've heard, the alternate cut of the movie is basically an entirely different film.
It's a completely different movie. Yeah, I'm very fascinated. It seems like I want to.
I don't know which one to watch first. Do I watch the alternate cut first? Like, was that how the director intended it before it got butchered, or was that just like, this isn't working, let's fuck it up, let's change it?
It seems like the alternate cut sounds more like an appropriate sequel to the first film, so it seems like that's the director's actual version of the movie. There seems to be a story behind that picture.
Yeah. Okay, so we've just cut through a couple different ghosts here. Apparently, if you pay close attention, they had 2 different actors play the hammer, because like one guy just left halfway through the production. So the way Beck describes it is there's one guy who kind of pursed his lips more often than the others, so underneath all the makeup you can still tell it's him by like the way he uses his lips.
And we all stare at lips.
Also funny to me is in the making of features on the disc, Beck talks about how like he doesn't actually care for the kid with like the arrow through his head. Because it's like, how's that kid gonna kill you? Like, what's like, it was an interesting idea, and it just doesn't quite fit, but we stuck to it.
I thought he was going to say Beck didn't care about the kid in the movie. Which same.
There's a kid in this movie?
Yeah. Once again, the original...
One of the worst movie kids of all time, maybe? That also
Not
just
great.
Thankfully disappears. Honestly.
Yeah, he just kind of wanders off, and they're supposed to be rescuing him. But it is a throwback to the original film, which had this weird break where the film is theoretically like a kid-friendly comedy about a boy who's in a house full of ghosts. But also the ghosts are trying to murder the family at different points. The original 13 Ghosts cannot decide if it wants to be a G family-friendly movie or like an actual horror film. Which is weird because it ping-pongs back and forth, and it's like they really didn't know what kind of tone they wanted to strike, so it just goes everywhere.
It doesn't make a decision, so it ends up being nothing.
Pretty much, yeah. Again, weird though, because William Castle starts that movie out by having a secretary who's just a skeleton.
It really peaks early on.
Like, it's an honestly hilarious, wonderful intro, but it's so goofy. You're like, how the hell do they try and make the rest of the film in any way serious after that? Like, just make it goofy. That's obviously what Castle wanted, and he's the director.
Not Castle's best.
Although, let's look back at William Castle's career. The guy gave us some kind of camp classics. Even the ones we love are goofy. Like House on Haunted Hill, the original has plenty of goofy moments. You've got fucking Vincent Price marionetting a skeleton to knock a woman into acid. Like, it's goofy. It's fun, but it's goofy. But, fuck, the guy wanted to cap out his career by directing Rosemary's Baby. So he clearly had darker intentions. Like, sometimes he wanted to make dark adult films. Unless his version of Rosemary's Baby was going to be completely different than the script we got.
Oh, you're not allowed to know if it's a boy or a girl before the end, and you have to, like, walk out with the right cigar. Like, oh, if you picked It's a Girl on the way in, you don't get to leave the theater.
Just imagine if William Castle were alive now, he would have the best gender reveal party mankind has ever known. Like, there'd be explosions, the whole town would be leveled, and in the dust it would spell boy.
Then there's a jury that has to be gathered so they can vote on what gender they think the baby should be.
As long as we're talking about Castle, I absolutely adore his use of gimmicks in film. Because most of the movies he made were kind of just throwaway material. Like, they have some merits to them, but they're not trying to be high art, which I kind of love. Like, they know they're entertainment and they don't have pretension to them at any level.
Oh, Castle was a genius.
So they're okay with the gimmicks. They are all about marketing, which is something I think current day filmmakers are terrified of.
Yeah.
They all want to be taken as very serious. They think, oh, I'm committing this to celluloid. I'm giving 2 years, 3 years, 5 years of my life to make this thing. It's got to be serious. It's got to be taken seriously. But to the audience, nah, they don't give a shit how long you worked on something. So you might as well present them something fun. It can be okay. Not everything has to be a serious artwork that could hang in the Louvre, you know?
Yeah.
I feel like we've unfortunately gotten away from that. There needs to be a little bit more variety in the way we treat some of our horror films.
Very, very much so.
One of the big reasons I love Malignant so much. Yeah. Like, Malignant clearly knows it's trying to be schlocky in parts and just fun. Which I think puts it on Dead Silence level, where it's like, thankfully people will have come around on it very quickly, but I can see audiences not quite understanding it because it's so different from most of the horror films we get on a daily basis.
Oh yeah, I always said in the episode, Malignant is such a clear love letter to Dark Castle. It's wonderful to know that this era of filmmaking has reached the age where it can retroactively start influencing things now. Like, I think the reappraisal of a lot of this stuff today is gonna lead to some really interesting films further down the line. Like,
Jamie, I hate to break this to you, but it's coming up on like the 20th anniversary of this movie this year.
Jesus Christ.
Right, so it's had time. Like, the people that like this movie have grown up and are now becoming filmmakers, or should be filmmakers by now.
There's kids who really did come out the pussy talking about 13 Ghosts.
And Mom just wouldn't stop watching on Sci-Fi Channel. This is like when you raise a baby on like Mozart tapes to make him smarter.
Saying that, I still don't really understand the reappraisal of House of Wax.
Honestly, I like House of Wax.
I'm glad
I watched it again recently when I got the collector's edition, and it's fun. I enjoy it a lot.
I'm glad the people who are enjoying it enjoy it, but it doesn't work for me.
It's got some really great gags.
The gags are good.
It's weird. I don't know why I enjoy House of Wax films, because that's a whole subgenre. But I think I love them all for different reasons. Like Mystery of the Wax Museum, the original Wax Museum 3D, like all of those movies. Anytime there's a murderer whose base of operations is a wax museum, it seems like it should be like old hat at this point because they're all the same story. No, I love all of them.
Cody, you ever seen Wax Mask?
I have. I own Wax Mask.
Nice. That's one of my favorites after Mystery of the Wax Museum.
Yeah, I think Severin put out like a collector's edition of that a while back.
Oh, did they? I did not know that.
I think it's Severin that has that one. Yeah.
I'll have to look into that.
So I don't know what it is about the concept of a murder and facsimiles of people, and it's always a horror-themed wax museum. It always is. I don't know. I just, for some reason, really enjoy it, even though I think I won't going in.
Are we watching waxwork right now?
That'd be fun.
God. Also, I will say one thing in defense of Dark Castle's House of Wax. That is an okay horror movie, elevated by the single moment where Chad Michael Murray walks up to that grate and casually snips off the top of Alicia Cuthbert's finger. That is one of the greatest out-of-nowhere gore scares in any horror movie. That gives me the willies, like, nearly 20 years later.
Jamie, I thought you were going to mention the moment. Spoilers for people who haven't seen House of Wax, 2005. The moment where the one guy's been waxed, but he's still alive, and like his friend accidentally peels off half his face trying to help him. Like the most misguided attempt to be useful ever, and you can just see the eye rolling around in this like petrified body. Oh, God, what a great gag!
I love the idea of taking the Vincent Price reveal from the original and making that a horrible kill scene.
Oh, man.
Isn't House of Wax just really more of a remake of Tourist Trap?
Honestly, yes.
Pretty close, yeah.
Did anybody from Tourist Trap get money for that?
You're implying anyone who was involved in Tourist Trap is still alive. Like, they weren't disposed of 6 months after that movie. I feel like
disposed of would be the right term. Like they throw them out with the mannequins and the set dressing from that film.
I feel like Tourist Trap should have like the same tagline as Snuff, filmed in Brazil, where life is cheap. Like if you told me Tourist Trap was everyone's last known footage that was in that movie, I would believe you.
Well,
also, maybe for Trick or Treat.
The giant baby always is like the most disturbing part to me. Just him covered in like his own vomit. And
it's so gross.
Fed. So gross. It's hard to gross me out watching horror movies. I think it's getting easier as I get older. But like I used to be able to watch horror films and like just eat fucking whatever was in my fridge for lunch. It didn't matter. I was trying to rewatch this for notes, and like the baby came up with the puke all over, and I'm like, oh, I can't eat my stew anymore. Oh.
The 2 times I couldn't finish food while watching a movie was the first time I watched Audition.
Makes sense.
And that was literally just due to tone. I didn't even get to the fucking meal scene yet. And the other one was, I think I had Chinese food for Antichrist.
Okay.
Bad combo. Pretty much like 20 minutes in, you lose all appetite.
I was trying to eat Chinese food once while I watched The Lost Boys for like the first time, and the maggot scene like got me. I was like, oh no, I can't eat my lo mein.
I think I've told the story on the podcast, but anytime me and my brother are together and we're eating Chinese food, if one of us is holding a thing of rice, the other will inevitably go, "You're eating maggots, Michael." Look down and go, "Oh," and then just continue on like we didn't just have that exchange.
One of you doesn't just fucking throw his rice around the house.
We're not going to waste it.
Who the fuck eats just plain rice out of the box, though? You got to mix that shit.
Or sorry we weren't born rich like you, Cody.
I'm pretty sure actual Chinese and Japanese people.
Why?
You are technically supposed to eat these things separate. I'm not saying I don't mix it together. I will always mix it together. You got to get to suck up that sweet, sweet juice. But
exactly. Juice would be the wrong term in my mind, but yes, I understand where you're coming from.
Cody, you've never eaten just rice by itself.
I've done it.
Rice?
I've done it, but I always feel like, man, I feel like I'm missing it. Actually, no. I take that back. Whenever I have just the rice by itself, I drown that motherfucker in teriyaki sauce.
I'm not a fan of teriyaki. I like duck sauce.
There's something revitalizing about. There's something revitalizing about a bowl of rice for whatever reason.
It's nice, steamy.
I don't know. Maybe I'm like fucking up. My grandparents are Polish, so maybe that's it. But in my mind, it's like, no, just potato. Just a bowl of potato, good. Roll of rice, bad.
Bowl of potato. So just like a normal, like uncooked potato sitting in a bowl, and you just use a fork.
Unfortunately, if you eat raw potato, that can be like, I think it's poisonous. But you know, if it's cooked,
it's hard to digest.
I have eaten raw potato before, and, honestly, it hasn't killed me, but not recommended.
I'm sure it's not good for your intestines.
Fuck them. I do a lot of things that's bad for my body. Like alcohol ain't good for it either, but here I am.
You know what else isn't good for your body?
This mummy juice I'm drinking?
I was going to say 13.
Juice.
I was going to say 13 Ghosts, but now I just want to talk about the drink, because I forgot about that. Are you regretting the bitters, Cody?
Honestly, no. This is a surprisingly good drink. So the instructions I gave, like, I didn't go into all the alcohols I use. I cheesed it a little bit, and I found, like, the gin I put in is a it's like a pink gin, but it's blackberry and rosé flavored, so it's a little fruity. And then the creme de cacao gives it a little bit of chocolatey, and the stout goes with that really well. And just I found a cherry rum I threw in there, so there's that little bit of cherry. It's very alcoholic, but the fruit notes actually make it like, ooh, this is kind of good. I could see myself drinking this again. I don't know if it needs all 13 goddamn liquors put into it, but yeah, I honestly thought this was going to be shit. I thought I was just going to be just vomiting the rest of the night. Like, I thought I should get a bowl next to me as I recorded in case I had to gag. But this is good. I think this just shows I don't know jack shit about anything. Because if 100, I would have bet money on this being garbage.
Once again, that's just the perfect summation of watching 13 Ghosts. This is good.
On paper, no.
we moved past. One of my favorite parts is when Lillard turns to Arthur and it's just like, one more time, me and you. Have you guys gone on adventures we haven't seen in like the last 20 minutes?
I like all of their interactions. There's a part earlier where Arthur's like, save my son! And for some reason, Lillard just goes, fucking Jesus Christ. Like, he's just exasperated. He's like, get out of my way. And he does it, but he's just like annoyed that he has to go save a child.
I don't speak Latin.
That's what I love. He's just as energetic as Stu, but he's playing a guy who's just pissed off to be there, just negative, cynical, high energy. It's a rare combo. You don't get that very often in characters.
I call that pulling a Paxton.
And he's just so high strung because, I mean, it's all because of, I mean, I guess the idea is because of his,
life sucks for this character.
Yeah, like life
he can't
sucks
touch
because
anyone,
of
his constant
psychic
migraines.
abilities, which is why it is like...
He's a fucking X-Men character.
He's a 100% X-Men character, and when he dies and you see him as a ghost, he's very like calm and serene and at peace. He's too cool for school.
Yeah, he's the happiest ghost. He's like he's fucking the origin of old Casper.
Now you could say he's the 13th ghost, but he doesn't factor into anything at all. So really, he just happens to be a ghost who's there in a house that contains 12
it's like a 12 plus 1, 12 and adjacent ghosts.
We all know the lawyer was the 13th ghost all along.
That guy went straight to hell.
Yeah, where the fuck did the lawyer go after he died? Why didn't that ghost show up? Why would you cast a dude who looks like Davidoff, not have him show up?
So one thing I want to go back to for just a second, as long as we're talking about how great Matthew Lillard is in this role. It blows my mind. Okay, this is 2001. This movie came out. He had made Scream in 1996. So this is only a handful of years later where he's gone from playing a high school teenager murderer to a guy who's just tired of this whole world, just worn out and beat down. There's like a 4-year difference in his real life between being a high schooler and being like this burnout medium psychic.
And only a few years more removed from being a hacker.
Right?
And then only a few years later, he'd be without a paddle.
Lillard is like a comic book character who keeps getting rebooted every couple of years.
It was really weird, though, when I saw him as a grown-ass adult man in Twin Peaks: The Return.
Yeah.
That wasn't cool. I'm not here to see Matthew Lillard with middle-aged problems telling me he didn't kill his wife.
With a GeoCities webpage he's devoted his life to. That was perhaps the most David Lynch thing of that series, just like twisting Matthew Lillard into that character. Oh, a twist! I'm not here for you, woman. Give me the book.
This weird, pointless twist that doesn't really add up, and
like I think we all knew from the start that fucking he's coming back, right? Like you don't cast that caliber of actor just to kill him off in like the first scene after 2 lines. You know he's going to be back at some point in the third act. So the twist is very flat. I'm glad he's here. I'm not opposed to it. It's just one of those, the audience is way smarter than the characters. Now that the characters are dumb, they're just like, for some reason,
ghost, though,
not
if they did
being
just let
able to
him be a
understand the
ghost.
plot.
Yeah, that's what frustrates me about that twist is it's so much cooler when you think he's just a ghost.
I wish we had a whole generation of kids who looked at this scene like fucking Titanic with like, there's room for 2 of you behind the door.
Ron Lillard.
I'm pretty sure Lillard just wants to die at this point.
Yeah, well, he says that too. I was looking for a reason to like myself. But if I had to pick a way to go, being killed inside of a haunted glass mausoleum by a variety of very nifty ghosts, pretty cool.
Has Halloween Horror Nights done 13 Ghosts at all? Because if not, they should. This would make an amazing haunted house.
I was thinking that earlier in the movie. Just imagine walking through and each zone is like a different ghost. You could have 12 different rooms.
You'd have to invent a new That's the last one is Lillard. He appears as himself.
Well, I think you should do it.
You just have a drink with him.
Talk about Scooby-Doo, it's great. No, I think it should be like the Haunted Mansion, where at the end, you become the 13th ghost.
Ooh, there's a mirror at the very end.
Spoilers for the Haunted Mansion.
That ride that's been around since like 63.
I love how much slamming there is in this movie.
Right? Yeah, that puppet slamming the blood gush coming out of his mouth. It's effective. It's simple, but it works so well. Can we talk about the costume design of Matthew Lillard's character?
Oh my god, I want that suit.
Red suit, like dinner jacket thing he's wearing,
the fact jacket. He was wearing it underneath the jumpsuit, he pulls it off like he's fucking James Bond.
Like, you can see it underneath the jumpsuit as he walks around and introduces himself as the electrician, and you're like, what the fuck? Okay. It's a wonderful touch for that character, but it just feels like something Matthew Lillard just wore when he walked in. They're like, yes, that, keep it on.
What I like is it has vaguely the same like color scheme as Abraham and his cloak from the opening, so it's like this weird henchman and a super villain thing going on. So I don't have anywhere good to say this in the commentary, so I'm just saying it while the symbols are on the screen.
You've got like 14 minutes left, Jamie. Get it out.
After seeing this movie for the first time, my girlfriend became obsessed with getting the symbols of the Black Zodiac tattooed, and I've never been more for something in my life.
That's up there with anybody who sees Blade for the first time gets the Blade tattoo.
Hold on, so dumb question for me. Is the Black Zodiac actually a thing? Like, did they just lift the symbols from a real thing and stick them in this movie?
No. Yes and no. I believe there is technically like a Black Zodiac, but it has nothing to do with the version in this.
That's just because I'm sure a lot of people have gotten to the name Black Zodiac over the past few hundred years.
It's metal as hell.
It's like how many fucking circle of black thorns there are.
Man, how annoying would it be if you died and you came back as a ghost in a hospital gown? Like, oh, this sucks. I would much rather be like the Torn Prince who gets to die in fucking, like, cool jeans and a leather jacket and a Corvette than, like, the guy who, like, died of colon cancer in the hospital, like, with his ass out in the hospital gown. All eternity, you're gonna look silly.
That's the tragedy of funerals. They don't even get to wear the suits in the afterlife.
I mean, well, it's even worse. Think of the Night of the Living Dead remake, where they have the zombie come out and his clothes fall off because they're fucking the clothes they bury you in. Like, they don't actually bury you in a real suit. They have to, like, cut the back out to just stretch it over top of you. Basically, all zombies should come back looking like they're wearing hospital gowns of real clothes. Oh!
No,
I wish
Miss
that kill
Honey.
went a little longer. That's fucking what? That's Saw 5 right there before Saw 5?
No, you have to save Shannon Elizabeth for America.
Okay, not to criticize a gag in this movie, because most of them I think are really well done. But honestly, as the character's being squished behind the glass, wouldn't it have been amazing if her eyeball just popped out and shot right at the screen like Evil Dead 2?
I expect that every time I get to that shot. It always feels like I'm watching it edited for television. Like, no,
yeah.
there's supposed to be an exclamation point there.
Right? I don't know. There's been a couple of scenes where you actually get to see a character like squished to death. Not as many as you think. I think there's only like a handful really that are like well done. Most of them don't have eyeballs shooting at you, and it's a mistake. Sam Raimi would tell you otherwise, and he would do it.
Okay. I looked up the real Black Zodiac, so I can now read the actual signs of the Black Zodiac.
Mike, be our wiki expert.
Okay, it is the Tyrant.
Okay.
Which is the version of Ares. The Fallen Demon, the Basilisk, the Serpent, the War Maiden, the Maelstrom, the Ravenous, the Poisoned Dart, the Tempest, the Leviathan, the Beast, and the Sword.
Those are way cooler than the names of the ghosts.
Cool, yeah.
We have the Bound Woman and the Withered Lover. Oh no, give me the fucking Basilisk. Oh, see, Arthur's counting the ghosts. You saw Pinky go down.
Math teacher.
The Ravenous is such a great name for just
the
a creature.
Ravenous. Wouldn't that be a cool horror movie? The Ravenous. That's a Wendigo movie right there. That's a Wendigo.
Can they do that for the Blumhouse 13 Ghosts? They use the real Black Zodiac.
I mean, fuck, why don't we just have a horror movie called The Black Zodiac and just remake 13 Ghosts?
I like the idea of someone having to release a copyright-free remake of 13 Ghosts.
What's
no
great
glasses.
is I don't know anything about astrology, really, so I have no idea, like, if there is any historical value to anything that I just read, or if it's just like, oh, the idea of the Black Zodiac's cool from that movie, let's make a real one. So, either way, better names.
The very, very small amount I know about astrology, right, is that each sign is governed by the stars it was born under, like the position of the stars it was born under. So would the Black Zodiac just be the reflection of that? Or not the reflection, but the dark side of that?
Yeah, I think so. Because each one came with, like, Tyrant was Aries, Fallen Demon was Taurus, Basilisk was Gemini, blah, blah, blah.
Which one's Cancer? I'm a Cancer. I want to know what I am.
Let's see. You'd be the Serpent.
Hey, serpent buddies, Cody.
Serpents! Pow! Not bad. I mean, there's... Cool.
I'm the Tempest. You are like the wind, wild in nature and carefree in your... That's a lie.
Yeah.
See, now I'm mad at
he said the title of the movie! Yeah! They've said 13 Ghosts several times, actually.
But this time, Amadeus said it.
This fucking Batman Returns joke. I wish movies wouldn't make that joke. I wish movies would not do like the fucking DJ sound whenever they need to have like an important breaking sound moment.
I just love how this movie kind of just ends like, and then she just does a thing, presses a button essentially, the ghosts go away.
Fucking destroyed the house.
And then the house just blows up, everybody's fine, credits.
Oh god, why did we make so many gears?
Now, this movie really is...
this shot! Oh! I love that. I don't know what the name for the shot is. So it's not like an Eye of God shot. It's like the opposite of it because you're looking from the ground straight up.
It reminds me very much of a shot that Flanagan does in Dr. Sleep.
I always think of A Knight's Tale at the end of the movie where the villain's been knocked off his horse and he looks up and all the other minor characters are basically talking about how he's being judged. That's the shot I think of when I associate that, ground up. But it always works for me. You can't use it all the time, obviously. It'd be weird to film a movie that way. But when you hit it, ooh, baby. Ooh. Man, look at Matthew Lillards. So fucking cool as a ghost. He's the coolest ghost.
It's the calmest Lillard has ever been.
I want so badly for Matthew Lillard to come to me at my darkest hour and remind me that the power was within me all along.
God, that would give me the courage to jump through the gears of this machine to my family.
For no reason, by the way.
He has to make a leap of faith, Mike.
It was a leap of faith, right. This is the character moment. Tony Shalhoub realizes he loves his family so much he'd rather be dead than live without them. Which is kind of toxic, honestly. I don't think you should be like that to anyone else. You should have your own self-worth, Tony Shalhoub. Don't jump through you did it.
See, I would argue that in attempting to be with his family, this is Tony Shalhoub coming alive. Because after having given up on personal growth and living his own life after the death of his wife, Tony Shalhoub was living as the 13th ghost, a man dead inside.
Well, he wasn't trying to live as his own person. He was connected to his wife. That's Tony Shalhoub's problem in this movie. He's only worth living if he's attached to another person. He's a human parasite.
Like Monk.
Like Monk. Very much.
Wait for the jackal to skedaddle. Okay, fun fact about this.
One of the ghosts is actually just a very, very fat man with an extra finger.
Fun fact, that shot of the 13 ghosts walking away and escaping was shot on September 11th.
Yeah, they mentioned that on the commentary. We were working for September 11th, and we heard the news, and it was very awkward. We all just kind of took a moment of silence.
But everyone is dressed like the 13 ghosts, and I love that so much.
Just imagine having to go through that. All right, moving on. Time is money, people.
There's an amazing behind-the-scenes photo, like a Polaroid, of the angry princess, in a robe, with the dire mother, behind her, I think, smoking a cigarette or something in a makeup room. And I just wish that there was, a little, tube TV in the background on CNN, and the planes are hitting the World Trade Center.
Oh, Jesus.
God, the entire 2000s in a single image. Everything that was going to come.
Well, anyways, happy ending, except for the fact that Tony Shalhoub is still bankrupt.
They're all homeless now.
They're all homeless. They have no money left. Their maid is leaving them. Actually, the lawyer had a shit ton of money. They could just walk through the ruins again and probably take the money back. But maybe the ghost of Matthew Lillard would be like, "Hey, man, you're rich if you just walk back through some of the ruins here."
I love how the musical choice and the sudden smash to credit just makes the entire movie feel like a shitpost.
We've mentioned this many a time before, but I do think more films should end like The Addams Family, where you just have a rap to explain the plot of the movie. If you're going to go with something hip-hop, do it that way.
Oh, yeah.
Really commit to the bit. Don't even just do a bit of, hip-hop. Oh, hey, look at the stunt coordinator. It's Jason Voorhees.
Mm-hmm.
But, Freddy versus Jason Voorhees.
It truly was 13 Ghosts.
I love 13 Ghosts. Honestly, yes, the structure of the movie is...
13 Ghosts? It's the better question.
It's confusing because, if you listen to Mike talk about the movie, you would assume he hates it. However, we just did a whole commentary for it, which meant watching the movie several times to make notes and impressions. So we obviously love the movie enough to do that, because I don't think we've done a movie we absolutely hated as a commentary before, right?
Look. 13 Ghosts is like a little brother that Mike likes to bully.
I think highlighting the fact that it is so fucking stupid but is great simultaneously is why it's so special.
Absolutely.
A movie doesn't have to have its shit together 100% to still be fun and watchable and shit post about it or anything.
I think it's very fun. My problem with the movie really is the structure of the really long second act. Okay, if you were to break this movie down into a 3-act structure, which is, I get most people say you shouldn't actually break movies down to 3-act structures because that doesn't truly make sense. There's a lot of in-betweens and fragmented parts. but you have a really extended part where Arthur gets in the house and realizes it's filled with ghosts. That takes up a large chunk of the movie. Then the third act, where they realize that Uncle Cyrus is actually a villain, that's essentially the third act. That's like your turning point where things have to change. That's a really small part of the movie. That's only like 10 minutes, maybe. So you have this very funky middle act where what happens? So they kind of wander around the house trying to find the kid, and just to add some twist to it, they realize there's someone else in the house, and then another twist, she's a double agent. But they don't move around the house that much. They don't go into that many separate rooms or like have different set pieces with the ghosts. They really have like that one encounter with the jackal, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Jackal and the Hammer are the only ones who really get play.
Yeah, so it's very thin. You've got 12 ghosts, and you don't really spotlight every single one of them into like a real moment. You only, like the Pilgrimess, you'd be forgiven for forgetting she was a part of the movie. She's only shown in flashes.
Yeah, I mean, all the other stuff is like interesting and fun to talk about from this like a a movie construction standpoint. Like, oh, it does this, and it's also kind of why it's special at the same time, like why it's fun. The only real drag about its ill construction is that quote unquote second act, which is mostly people for some reason still not believing there's ghosts, despite the fact that you can just put glasses on and see ghosts.
They really should have had a They Live style fight, like 10 minutes of just Matthew Lillards trying to put the glasses on Tony Shalhoub and they're wrestling.
And the fact it is they just split up Scooby-Doo style and then wander around the house and nothing really happens, and you just keep hearing the same exposition over and over again.
It's very weird to look at a movie this short and say you can really feel the length. Like, if they cut a good 10 minutes out of this, I think it would be so much more digestible.
I mean, that's the only legit bummer about it. Well, that and the kid's really annoying, and I wish he died.
I mean, honestly,
I even love the font.
Like, I don't know if he survives.
I love the font.
13 Ghosts. We didn't even make fun of the fact that it's 13 with the fucking number 13 stuck in the middle officially.
I'm obsessed with that, because I didn't realize that until years later, that wasn't just a gimmick for, like, the VHS cover. No, it is legally Thir13en Ghosts.
If we want to talk something embarrassing, I got to get this out. I have to unload my sins to the audience before they leave. I didn't realize until taking notes for this movie that Dark Castle Entertainment was a reference to William Castle movies. It never occurred to me until I was taking notes. I'm like, oh, William Castle, Dark Castle. The first two movies were William Castle movies.
I'm not sure how to respond to this.
Never once occurred to me. I thought Dark Castle, because their logo is like a gargoyle, like, oh, it's a spooky old haunted house castle. And they make horror movies.
Well, they used to make horror movies.
They still do. Seance is a horror movie.
Yeah, there. They lease out horror movies now.
Seance is a lot
Bring
of fun,
Dark Castle back. Like full-fledged Dark Castle, like Hammer. Like when Hammer promised that they were coming back, and then they release a movie every once in a while.
Yeah, like you want Daniel Radcliffe in a ghost movie? We can do that. You want a sequel to that? No, we made it.
Come on, get James Wan on some Dark Castle pictures.
I don't think WB will let him go. That guy has made so many billions of dollars for him.
True. Can we just retroactively make Malignant a Dark Castle picture?
We should mention, this is a whole different conversation, but we need to appreciate the fact that James Wan is probably the most successful person in Hollywood over the last decade, and no one really notices.
He can kind of do anything. Like, he's very, he's somehow a name in pop culture. But like, no one really notices
Nolan
he is.
Made several big movies in a row, original movies and sequels and superhero movies, and everyone knows Christopher Nolan. Common folk know Christopher Nolan. James Wan is out there making Aquaman an extremely profitable venture in between like Fast and the Furious movies and everything else, making a Conjuring universe, and people are like, who's that?
Oh, James?
It's very, very weird.
James Wan has the career that everyone thought Shyamalan was going to have after the first two movies.
Yeah.
I mean, good for that guy, but he deserves a lot more. You got to put some respect on that name. He has done some incredible things in Hollywood.
But I feel like the fact he's under the radar a little bit still, despite everything, gave us Malignant.
Yeah. Peter Jackson got King Kong just for making The Lord of the Rings. I feel like after Aquaman, he had a King Kong coming, and he settled for
he chose to make Malignant instead. That's
I love. That's amazing and very cool, but it's like, you probably could have made 2 Malignants. Just ask for like the money to make 2 at once, man.
Though I am sad that Aquaman show
the trench
didn't happen. Yeah, I mean, he is doing his animated series, though. That's cool. But the trench not happening bothers me.
That's a sad note to go out on.
I'm sorry.
But, folks, the show has to end. Yeah. Now, folks, this has been 13 Ghosts. If you've enjoyed this commentary, we have plenty more at boxofficepulp.com. You can find more episodes of us, sometimes doing commentary, sometimes just shooting the shit. Sometimes I'm not even in them. Those are the best ones. You can find more episodes of Box Office Pulp basically through any podcast platforming system you enjoy. We are on iTunes. We're on Stitcher. Actually, I don't think we're on Spotify. Don't look for us there. One day, maybe. Who knows?
Soon.
Maybe. If you want to find us, we are at Box Office Pulp on Twitter. You can find my personal account at BopWatch1 on Twitter. Do you guys want to promote your Twitters, or do you not want to meet strangers?
I'm at Lucky Dick Napier.
I'm at Mondo Funky, and I enjoy strangers as long as they're respectful.
I like it when you're not respectful as a stranger.
Mm-hmm.
Spit in my
One
mouth.
of these monsters always lies. One of these monsters always tells the truth. Anyways, folks, this has been Box Office Pulp. Thank you so much for joining us. Stay spooky. Happy Halloween. And get the hell out of here.
I think that was your head hitting the desk, and you just
I have
got
fallen
one
over
last
after finishing my mummy juice. It has killed me.
You get more out of life when you go out to a movie. Please remember to replace the speaker on the post when you leave the theater.
We need to make a Halloween-themed wake-up juice for Cody, which is just essentially just throwing a bunch of cotton candy in a blender and liquefying it.
You don't have to... What? Mike?
No, too
what?
bad. You're dealing with it.
It's cotton candy. It's a common part of drinks. You just pour any amount of alcohol on it and it dissolves. You don't have to blend it.
No. Candy corn is different.
Oh, candy corn. I thought you said cotton candy.
Candy corn is its own animal, essentially.
I can make a pretty good candy corn cocktail, actually. It's all about separating the layers, because you can have like a white alcohol on the top. And, like,
I'm glad you're having a good time of it.
I'm just fascinated by the concept of trying to put cotton candy in a blender.
Right? No, that's insane.
Like trying to turn it back into normal sugar.
Undo, Control Z!
Okay, breaking down cotton candy at a molecular level like you're Dr. Manhattan.
I really thought the post-credit scene was Jamie going to say something else about fucking talking 13 Ghosts right out of the womb. Like an unbirthing thing, but creepier. But I'm glad we did this.
I kept it classy.
This is Box Office Pulp Guy, and this has been a Pulp Podcast production. Now please, 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 put a gun in my mouth and pull the trigger and say goodnight.
And now, on with the show.